Welcome, my friend. Today is all about reflection. We're going over what this year, 2025, has taught me about health, motherhood, and truly leaning in to trust the process because sometimes we just don't know what life is going to throw at us. I also invite you to take time to reflect on this year. I think the end of a year is often about looking forward to what's next in the new year, making goals, making resolutions. And before you do any of that, I invite you to pause and to really acknowledge what this past year has brought you, to approach it with curiosity, with gratitude, and with openness, because it's only by looking at where we've come from that can help guide where we are going. So with that, we will dive in. To start, let's talk about some personal milestone and motherhood lessons that I moved through this year. I moved through pregnancy, birth, and am now going to be transitioning to postpartum yet again. This was not necessarily planned. So if you have been listening to Holistically well, you know that I got pregnant in April of 2025, and our plan was always to grow our family continuously and to welcome a fourth child at some point in the future. But I always envisioned that happening in our quote, forever home. And we moved back to our rural small town a year and a half ago. We moved back in summer of 2024. And I just envisioned that we would get started on our home build process right away. We were supposed to start at the end of 2024 or the very beginning of 2025. And we did not end up breaking ground until November 20th of 2025. And so we are very fresh in the home build process right now. And so, of course, it will not be done for welcoming our fourth child. Our fourth baby will be around 6 months old, 7 months old by the time we finally move in. And so I just had to really let go of control. And for me, as a very type A person, I really like to plan. I like to plan whatever I can and to quote, control the controllables. And gratefully, with our first 3 children, we were able to conceive on our first cycle of trying. And that is not how I thought my story would go. If you listen back to my very first podcast episode, I talk about how I would only get 1 cycle a year from age 16 to like 21, and was told that I would struggle to have children someday, and was able to self-regulate those cycles. And with our first 3 pregnancies, those were conceived whenever we were ready to try for the next kiddo with natural family planning methods and cycle tracking. And so our 4th pregnancy was actually our first surprise pregnancy. And I go over in another episode how that came to be. I shifted my charting processes when I probably shouldn't have, and we conceived. And with that being said, it was the curveball I think I needed. My sister actually told me, you can't plan everything. And so I think that was honestly good for me to just learn to surrender and to let go. So if you have experienced that this year too, or if you're in a moment of just learning to surrender, to let go of maybe your plans and lean into God's, I'm right there with you. And so we have moved through an unexpected pregnancy, I would say, this year, as well as planning for our home build and moving through that process. And so that has been a lot. Simultaneously, this business has grown. So also in April of 2025, I launched the Holistically Well podcast. And that was very thoughtful and intentional. I always wanted to launch a podcast focused on holistic women's and whole family health across the lifespan, because there's so much noise out there and there's only so much that you can get from a quick social media reel. And that's what I found myself struggling with as a professional, was seeing these really quick, short snippets that don't tell the full story. And so having time to sit down for a 20 to 60-minute episode, whether it's me solo educating you or bringing on an expert guest, to move through the different seasons of womanhood, to move through parenting, to move through a holistic approach to raising our children, the next generation, It's huge and it has been so fruitful, and hearing your podcast reviews has spoken to me so deeply as to why this work is important. Every time before I record an episode, I say a little prayer and just say, I hope that this can impact at least one person's life today. And if it can do that, then it was all worth it. And so hearing from over 100 of you now on how this podcast has impacted your life has been amazing, because we are not 100 episodes in. So knowing that each episode has impacted more than one of you is like the greatest feeling, and really gives me that fuel to keep showing up on here. So with that, if you have anything that you want to learn about in the new year, definitely let me know. You can send me a DM on Instagram over at Dr. Kayla Borchers, or email me at hello@drkaylaborchers.com, because truly I do this for you. And thank you for tuning in. So in April, we launched this podcast. And again, I didn't necessarily plan on being pregnant. So that kind of threw a curveball into things in terms of recording ahead with some episodes at the end of this year, 2025, so that while I am on my 3 months of maternity leave, new episodes can continue dropping for you. And we have a whole host of awesome guests coming on in the new year, and I am so excited for you to listen in. So this podcast has really taught me that showing up consistently really is important, not only for me getting into the rhythm and groove of recording, but also for you, my listener. I don't want you to feel like I'm scattered and sometimes I'm here and sometimes I'm not. I want you to know that you can trust me. You can trust me to show up and be here for you and give that consistent education. And so every Tuesday, you can keep expecting a new podcast episode to release here. Other ways that my practice has grown in this 2025 year has been a new office. So when I moved to our rural hometown area in summer of 2024, I didn't know if my practice would just shift to fully virtual. I had previously been in the city. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and had an incredible office there that I absolutely loved. And we closed that office down after the birth of my third child, which was in January of 2024. And I then went on an about 6 months maternity leave because we would be moving to our hometown. And with that move, I first shifted to only virtual offerings. So I have my online preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum programs, which are all incredible ways to meet you exactly where you are, so that access to care is not a limitation. And yet, I really missed that in-person, hands-on interaction with my patients. And so I knew that really a hybrid approach was what was best suited for me as a business owner. So I began looking for offices and landed in Sydney, Ohio, which is the county seat of the area that I live in. And I initially subleased from another local healthcare provider who does primary care. And quickly our practice grew. And so at the beginning of 2025, in January of 2025, I moved into my own office where I am now. And we have this space 24/7, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever you want to say. It's just ours. And so having the flexibility to bring on another provider was huge. And so I first hired Dr. Lauren Klosterman in February of 2025, and she has been in office 2 days a week and is a stay-at-home mama the other days. And reflecting back on this year, I've realized what a gift it is as a business owner to be able to hire on other women who are in a similar life season as myself, who want to practice their physical therapy skills and utilize their God-given talents to help other people. There's a reason that we went into this field. We love what we do. We love the impact that it creates. But we also love being moms and want to be present for our young children. And so creating an environment where my therapist and myself can show up and be the absolute best doctors of physical therapy that we can be for our patients, while also showing up as the best versions of wives and mothers at home. And that can really only be created in an environment that eliminates burnout and that promotes employee well-being. And unfortunately, in the traditional medical system, that's very hard to come by. It's very challenging to find an office that doesn't require you to work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night a few nights a week. And so creating a practice with mothers in mind was really important to me, especially since we support a lot of women moving through their childbearing years and beyond. And so I say all of that because that was huge. I never really envisioned when I launched my business it growing beyond myself. I left Ohio State Sports Medicine and my esteemed clinical role there and started my own practice under my own name because I thought it was always just going to be me, to be honest. And you all have blown me away with the need that truly is present in both my local community and beyond. I serve patients locally here in Midwest Ohio as well as virtually, truly across the world. We've had patients from clients, I should say, from Australia and Canada and all throughout the United States. And so getting to connect with women no matter where you are and be able to support you on your health journey in any which way has just been so fulfilling. And so you'll see that we've slightly shifted from only the Dr. Kayla Borchers brand to Holistically Well, which is the title of this podcast. And our practice now goes by Holistically Well Physical Therapy by Dr. Kayla Borchers. So you'll see that my main Instagram account is still at Dr. Kayla Borchers. My website is drkaylaborchers.com. You can find us on YouTube and across all platforms at Dr. Kayla Borchers. But you'll see me using the term holistically well more and more to really encompass the team approach that we now have. And so Dr. Lauren came on in February of 2025. And then as I approached my own fourth birth and another maternity leave that started in early December, I knew that I needed to bring on another therapist to continue to see the caseload of clients that we have. And so I hired on Dr. Ashley Gear, and she now supports our patients as well. And I have had the pleasure to be a patient for both Dr. Lauren and Dr. Ashley, and they are both phenomenal at what they do. What really sets us apart as providers is taking a very holistic, whole body approach to our patients. And I've seen that time and again in the reviews of patients who have worked with us, is that they really appreciate the time that we take and the whole body approach. We don't just get the referral from your physician and zero in on that one body part. We are direct to primary care providers, and you can come see us without a referral. And we're able to do a full body evaluation and really determine the root cause of your concerns. And so now, full picture, there are 3 of us physical therapists. At the end of 2025, here I'm stepping into maternity leave with my 4th child. And I am learning that I have to kind of let go of the reins a little bit in terms of this practice and really trust the incredible providers that I have brought on board to continue to take really good care of you as I practice what I preach and rest. And so now I have been moving through my own birth prep. So we have a Holistically Well pregnancy program that brings you through all trimesters of pregnancy. Within that, there's also a birth prep section, which if you find our resources later in your pregnancy and you only want the birth prep section, that's an option for you at a discounted rate. So I've been moving through that myself as I prepare for my 4th birth. And then I will be moving through my postpartum program as I enter 2026. And so getting to be both the provider and the patient has been really neat to reflect on and help me better refine my skills as I continue to support patients upon my return. Moving on to some clinical and educational insights that really stood out in 2025, we saw a lot of themes of women just feeling unsupported and not heard by their providers. And so, as mentioned, it really reaffirmed our root cause approach to care and recognizing ourselves that doing less better can work. And for busy women that we support, it's understanding how to habit stack. It's understanding their specific routine and how they can weave in these new holistic health rituals into it so that it doesn't feel overwhelming, but it feels really supported and sustainable. I also became certified in internal examination and treatment. Previously, we focused on all external approaches to treating the pelvic floor. And now we can also support women internally as well if that's needed. And so it's just another skill set in our toolbox to utilize if and when needed. Dry needling is something that all three of my therapists and I continue to utilize and support with our clients pretty much every session. Dry needling is my absolute favorite tool to get into the nervous system. And so those are ways that we're really supporting our clients in person. Now, on the personal side, kind of shifting back to that, I mentioned this year was learning a lot to let go and to surrender and to understand that I can't control all outcomes. And first, that was with pregnancy, right? Moving through my fourth pregnancy quicker than I anticipated that I would, but also with building our quote forever home. I am wanting to utilize as holistic and non-toxic materials as possible. But we also have a budget, and realizing, unfortunately, that the majority of natural materials are more expensive than man-made materials has been a process that I moved through. And I've crowdsourced some in my Instagram stories on picking your brains if you've built or if you've remodeled in terms of countertops to paint to carpet selections. There is so much to shift through. And so I have been doing a lot of that behind the scenes myself because I want our home to be a space that can feel lived in. I also want it to feel very timeless and classic so that we don't feel in 5 years like we want to remodel everything. I want it to feel like a space we can host our family and friends in and that they can be comfortable as well. And I want it to be a healthy environment for my family. I want the surfaces that we're using to not emit toxic chemicals. And there's just so much to learn. So that's something else you could definitely expect to hear more from me about as we move into the new year. Right now, we have a basement and basement walls, and that's about it. So definitely in the early process, and I'm really excited to see it unfold, to pick your brains if you're more knowledgeable than I in that area. Also, to weave that into my education here on Holistically Well and on Instagram at Dr. Kayla Borchers as we move through the process in hopes that all the time I've spent pouring into research can also be helpful for you. So shifting into what I'm carrying into 2026 is a new baby, is trusting the other two incredible physical therapists that I have on board, seeing our one-on-one patients inside my Holistically Well physical therapy practice, both in the Sydney, Ohio area and surrounding areas virtually. I am continuing this podcast and I'm really excited to keep showing up here every Tuesday, as well as in your inbox. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Tuesday that really just reflects, what we are focusing on that week, that month, in terms of supporting your women's health, but also whole family health and well-being, so we can be more proactive and not reactive across our health journeys throughout all the sacred seasons of life. I'm also carrying with me simplicity of letting go of what I can't control and just focusing on controlling the controllables. And for me, that looks like, okay, I can't control the timeline that these contractors might show up, but I can control what I'm doing with my free time, how I'm researching things so that I'm ready whenever they're ready for me to make a decision. I can't control how my baby is going to sleep through the night, but I can control how I get up with him, how I nurse him, and how I react to that. It can be very easy, especially in those postpartum days, to feel overstimulated. And so my goal is to simplify, to focus on what I can control, to let go of the rest, and to lean in to rest, and to really appreciate the work that I've done up until this point. I think the best benefit that we can give ourselves leading up to postpartum recovery is how we take care of our bodies before we even become pregnant and throughout pregnancy. I've seen that time and time and again with each of my patients, that the more supportive work that we do before they even become pregnant, or the more we support the body during pregnancy, the more ease-filled the postpartum is. And so I'm also just reflecting back on this past year, giving myself a lot of gratitude for all the work I've put in up until this point, and knowing that that is going to make this postpartum recovery and experience even easier. I also get to thank my past self for creating the Holistically Well Postpartum program so that I can simply press play on those movement videos and not have to reprogram everything for myself. I can simply move through what I know already works and what has already been created. In closing, I encourage you to reflect on your own year. Gently, give yourself grace. Don't be too hard on yourself. I invite you to rest and sit with this past year before setting new goals. My programs are here to support you in the coming year. If you have a goal of becoming pregnant in 2026, my preconception program is for you. If you are currently pregnant, you just got that positive pregnancy test, then my pregnancy program is here for you. And if you, like me, are newly postpartum, the Holistically Well Postpartum program has 12 weeks of exercise and education to support you as you heal. I hope you know that you don't have to move through this new year alone. Whether it's through one of the Holistically Well programs or through one-on-one root cause physical therapy, my team and I are here to support you. I'll also keep showing up every Tuesday here on the podcast and in your inbox to help with holistic health tips on the journey into and through motherhood. Now sit with that cozy beverage you grabbed, hopefully at the start of this episode, and sit with this past year before moving on to the next one. Until next week, my friend, stay well.